do you think that when a character dies in story mode, that they should be unplayable in the game? So, people might feel different from this. Just because your favorite character dies in story, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get to play them one last time. I mean, yeah, a lot of these games, they get released. You don't know the story. The story starts, your character's dying, and you're like, so wait a minute, you just saying he just not gonna be here no more is what you telling me? And it's like, yeah, that's what we telling you. Surprise. So starting with you, Mr. Game and Left, what do you think? Should players characters that die in story, should they still be playable in the game?
I say yes, because I mean, when it comes to fighting games, it's like it's just like no holds barred. You know, you got games like Marvel vs. Capcom where they just bring characters from everywhere, and I know that's a little different because that's like a subsector of versus games. But even when it comes to just like mainline games, like you think about the stories in these games. Some of these games have some crazy stuff going on. You talking about cloning and like sorcery and these artifacts and stuff like Mortal Kombat. You got time travel. You got people eating, consuming souls. So it's like at this point, a game like this, you can have anybody in the game. I mean, unless the developers want to stick to a very certain like and specific storyline or whatever that they're trying to portray. But I feel like honestly, just give the option to either DLC or unlock those characters because it's like you might as well. I mean, we already talked about Mortal Kombat 11, like Mortal Kombat in general. Like I mean, Liu Kang died, came back as a zombie. He died again, came back as a revenant. So we had so many revenants. People die, people come back to life. It's just like, so at this point, game it just really depends. Like even Tekken, you got people throwing people off in volcanoes. They're like, oh, I'm good. Like so, if you getting thrown off in the volcano and you come back ready to throw hands, you might as well bring everybody back, man. Ain't nobody dead. If you survive in a volcano, you can survive anything. Now, granted, that family, the Kazi and Jin, they had the devil gene or whatever, but still, like, come on, man, so much stuff going on. You might as well just let these characters come into the game. Again, like I said, I feel like if you want to do something very specific for like a story, like no, this character died in the last game, you not finna play them in this game. If that's what they want to stick to, that stick to their guns. But I just say let all the characters stay in there. If they died, put them back in. Because like a lot of times characters that get killed off, people like, that was my favorite character, man. I ain't gonna buy the game now. So it's like you might lose a good few like customers just because you took a character out, like Mr. Amazing.
So I'm not forgiving anybody.
The more we keep talking about time travel,
you know what they did.
The more we keep talking about time travel and all the stuff they did to bring back other characters, just go keep these wounds open.
Like, I mean, you think about it, man. They just, like I said, Liu Kang died. This man was fighting Quan Chi and Shang Tsung at the same time, caught the hands, died, came back as a zombie, then he died again. And now he's the new elder god. So it's like, well, I don't think he's an elder god, but he's a new lightning fire god, whatever I think he is an elder god now. So it's like fair to it, and they just like, nope, not coming back. You dead. You nope.
Yeah, right. Come on, man. Like you said, like Liu Kang died like 8 times. Fair didn't even get an on-screen death. What is wrong with you guys?
I mean, but to be fair, Liu Kang has protagonist powers, so he got plot armor, a lot of it. So, yeah, I think characters that died, just bring them back. I think it's kind of cool just to be able to play all the characters anyway. And I mean, like I said, but most of these storylines, there's so much crazy stuff going on. You might as well bring them back. Even Street Fighter, you got cloning in Street Fighter, a lot of crazy stuff going on the street. KRF, I didn't know how convoluted KRF was. You got clones, you got like 1,000 kilo clones, you got people did artifacts in the Orochi trying to bring Barney the dinosaur back from the grave and all this kind of stuff, man. So just bring everybody back, man. Just let us play with the characters. That's my take on that.
I'm of two minds about this because, like, on the one hand, having the story, kind of having the roster reflect the story is cool, but at the same time, right? It's like I still want to play my character though, right? Like, you know, and like, so when we're talking about characters dying in the story, are you talking about like somebody like, let's say let's say we're all fighting, we're all in a game, right? And then like all of a sudden, like we're like, yeah, man, this is cool, we're all here, and then like a rock just falls on me and I'm dead. So like I was in the story at the beginning, I was there for 10 minutes and I died. So I'm not in the game at all. Like, no, even though like I was technically in the game at the beginning, or we're talking about like if you die, like, you know, outside of like what are we talking? Are we talking like if you die halfway through the plot in the game, in the game story, then they're like, all right, man, you're not in the game. Like what exactly are we talking about here? Like, and can we get a little clarification with that?
I think we're also talking about like if you die in a game, like probably in future games, like you can no longer be in.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you know, with fighting games, it's kind of like it's a little bit different from like, you know, like other games. So
yeah, because I'm like, I mean, I think like, yeah, if you die in this game and you're not in like the next like 3 games until they inevitably decide to bring you back because you're too popular, then yeah, I would say, yeah, like that's a you know, I have no issue with that. Although I do kind of like, there's time travel, man. Like there's time travel and all this stuff. I don't know. It just, I would definitely say that, yeah, in the story, I would say, yeah, the roster should kind of reflect the story, I think, you know, even though no matter how painful it is to say that, because like, you know, they took Ferritor out of the game for no reason, but like the roster should reflect the story in some way, shape or form. I'm just kind of like, you know, I just one thing I don't appreciate actually is when characters don't die and they don't show up. You know what I mean? Like this characters was like they were in a game and then they're just not in the game next time. Like there are characters that were in like King of Fighters. Like there's so many characters that are King of Fighters that weren't in like so many games for so long, and it's just like, oh well, did they die? Well, no, they just aren't in the game. Well, why not? Well, you know, like why aren't they in the game? Why'd you take them out? So it's really weird. Like it's like, yeah, I'm like, it's cool. Then I mean, I'm completely behind like having the roster reflect the story and being like, yeah, if they died, they're not in the game. But at the same time, I'm like, but if they didn't die, there's no reason to take them out of the game. Like, why are you taking characters out of the game that aren't dead? You know, they have to be, and not only that, they have to die on screen. I don't want you to be like, oh, well, you know, he died, you know, like, you know, choking on like half of a Subway sandwich or something like that, you know, off screen.
Like how they kill people off TV shows.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, come on. Like, oh, well, the actor didn't want to come back. So, you know, we didn't like, you don't have that issue with fighting game characters, right? Like, just like, if you're going to not have them in the game, come up with a good reason. Like, they should, listen, they should either be dead or dying or like contract some sort of horrible disease or something like that. Don't just have people just not show up. No call, no show. Come on, man. No call. You can't do no call, no shows on on fighting games. Don't do this. Anyway, that's my opinion.
So I'll say, I guess, let's see. For the most recent cases where somebody, I guess, has died, that probably the most prominent one recently is Heihachi from Tekken 7. And I think there's pretty much a good reason why they want to close out that part of the Mishima story. And also, I think the voice actor for Heihachi died. So I think they're wanting to just kind of pay respects by not having that character come back. But it's funny because NRS, I think, is like the biggest culprit of killing off characters. And then it seems like kind of regretting it later on. And they kill off like popular characters too. I mean, when they got rid of Melina, you know, we know how crazy Melina fans are. They're like, hey, bring back our character. And I'm glad that she finally came back in MK11. But well, I guess, is she like alive now, or is she just like for the sake of like DLC, they just tossed her in? Does anyone know?
I don't know, man. Like,
okay.
I just assume time travel.
I'm not really sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not sure either. I don't know if they like brought everyone back or if she's just like, I know that's a thing that a lot of games are doing now. If a character is like quote unquote dead, that they just make them DLC so that it doesn't matter. Like they don't impact the story at all. I know King of Fighters is doing that with Geese. It's like, I mean, he's dead, but you know, hey, he's back for DLC. So That seems to be the route now. Is that if a character dies, then you just bring it back as DLC and just make it where they're not canon to the story, which I guess that's fine if you. I mean, that's the money hungry way, I guess, about going about it. But I
Then
don't.
you have to technically make a story mode for them, wouldn't you?
We don't have to. I mean,
But you're
they can
gonna
have
to
maybe
do
like an
that.
arcade ending or something like that, but they don't have to show up in the story though. Or whatever ending they have just isn't canon to the story at all. It's like a dream. Like I know what KOF has like was like the games are not canon, what they call like dream games or something like that. I forgot what like
yeah.
it's like I forgot like I think that's the term for it, is that they call them like dream match or whatever. So the
I think
games
that's the term.
yeah,
think
the
that might be
games that
it.
are not canon where they just toss everybody in there regardless of what's going on in the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have like you said, if it lines up with the story, I don't really have a problem with it. I guess the only problem I have is when you kill off the characters and then you're kind of forced to bring them back later on anyway due to fan outcry. That's my only thing. If you're going to kill off a character, I mean, I guess realistically, when you kill off a character, you don't know how popular they're going to be. You know, it just kind of happens that way. You know, when somebody's killed off, that's when you hear like the loudest cries for a character. It's like, hey, we all really like that character. And if you get loud enough cries, well, they'll end up being brought back. So I don't know. I guess it depends on if it lines up with the story vision and they just don't want certain characters to return, then I mean, I guess you have to hold that L. But for the most part, I'd say the best way to circumvent that is just make them DLC. So, and I think that's what a lot of developers are doing now. So I don't really have a huge issue with it. There haven't been characters that, for me personally, that have died and I felt like a huge impact for. So maybe that's clouding my judgment, but that's just my take on it.